Then I checked how many Wikipedias we had in Nigeria. Only Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba. And Nigeria has over 500 languages. So I was wondering, is it that these languages are more superior to my own language or something? Because the last time I checked, I was not inferior to anybody. So why would my own language not have a project?
You're listening to the Speaking Tongues podcast. I'm your host, El Charisse. Each week, I sit down to a conversation with multilinguals where we discuss and celebrate language, life, and culture through our own perspectives. Welcome back to another episode of Speaking Tongues. I'm here today with Kambai. Kambai, also known as Levi, hails from Fanswam or Kafanchan in the Nigerian Middle Belt. He is a minoritized language advocate and speaks Tyap, a language currently not supported for education by the Nigerian government. He grew up in the southern Nigerian city of Benin, where his language isn't common. Between 2007 and 2020, he developed a writing system called the Akai script for the Nenzit languages. In June 2014, he started the Tyap Language Institute of Nigeria, the Tialin, to actively promote Tyap language development through social media. Later in the same year, he self-published a few copies of a Tyap English dictionary, and today he leads all Tyap-related projects on Wikimedia, including the Tyap Wikimedia, Tyap Wiktionary, Tyap Wikimedians user group, and its incorporated organization. I'm so happy to have you here and have this conversation today with you, Kambai. How are you?
Fine, thank you, El. I'm also happy to be here on Speaking Tongues. I am very delighted.
I am so excited to talk to you about your language and talk to you about all of the endeavors that you are undertaking with Tiaf. So I like to start each episode with the same question, and that is, what is your first language and which languages have you learned to speak?
Yeah, this is quite a difficult question for me because when I was born, my mother, she was the one who was present always with us. So she tries to speak the Fanchon dialect of the Tiap language, and my environment was one that people spoke different languages. But the most common language that was used then was the Hausa language. And also people speak the Pidgin English common often. So I grew up seeing myself speaking, more of the Hausa language when I was more, little than any other. And I never wanted to associate with the phantom or the Tiap because I was usually ashamed of it.
Mm.
Yeah, but but then the rest is history. Yeah,
So, where you grew up in Nigeria, Hausa is a more commonly spoken in that area.
yeah, yeah. It was the most common, but then later on, towards the age of 9 or thereabouts, we moved down south to the Benin city. So in that very environment, there were people who spoke more of English than any other language. So one has to assimilate into the environment. And the school I started to attend, they were teaching in the Edo language. So that was actually the very first language I learned outside of English and French. And funny enough, the Edo language has common sounds with Tiap. Later on, I discovered they were quite similar. And later on, I also began to learn a little of the Yoruba language and and then any other language, even though my environment was dominantly an Edo environment, but the people there don't speak Edo at all. They mainly speak in English and the Nigerian pidgin. So you only get to hear the Edo when you go to school. And once
Mm,
you're back from school, everybody speaks any other thing.
I see. So, what was
Yeah.
it like? What do you remember? or even thinking back on that time in your life, what was it
yeah.
like having so many languages in your universe, in your world?
I usually never paid much attention to language. For me, if I can be able to communicate, that was just the most important thing. But as I became more of like into my teenage, I began to have this realization of identity. And in our house where we used to live in Benin, there used to be a lot of people coming from different parts of the country. So they speak different languages, and my dad usually likes to speak or to greet people in their languages. So I think it's still part of the reasons why I picked the interest in languages, and also he has quite a number of linguistic books that he has, in his collection. In those ages, there was no smartphone, there was no internet in the house, so the only thing is television, and even the television, it's not usually open always, till 4 p.m. before TV opens. Then,
Mm,
so most of the times, if you're back from school, you just have your books and and fellow human beings like you. So most times I don't usually like to speak a lot, so I go to look for those books and I begin to study. That was how I began to know about Greek and Hebrew, both writings and the languages. And and then the interest grew in me as time went on.
mhm,
And then when finally I picked the challenge to learn my language, that was when there was a broadcast in the year 2006. I remember when the Nigerian president was just about to leave, Olusegun Obasanjo was just about to, transition to leave the position in the next year, 2007.
mhm,
So in 2006, the Central Bank of Nigeria governor by name Charles Chukwuma Soludo, he's presently the governor of Anambra State of Nigeria. So he was giving a lecture about identity. I didn't start listening to him earlier, but because I was busy doing something until he began to say something that I picked interest in. So he was speaking about when he went to study in America, and the name he used in school, in secondary school, was Charles Soludo, and he used to be very proud of the name Charles. You call him Charles, he feels, yeah, I'm the man, I'm the man. So when he went to the United States, and then during the registration process, the man who was asking, who was in charge of the registration, was a black man. So he looked at him and he said, "What's your name?" And he gave him his name. "My name is Charles Soludo." And he looked at him again and he was like, "Don't you have an African name apart from Charles?" So yeah, he said, "Yeah, his name is Chukuma, So the man then lectured him about the importance of using your indigenous identity, your indigenous name, and stuff like that. And after much talks, he picked the interest in actually making Chukuma his first name and Charles, relegated to the background. So
mhm,
that was where I actually, in fact, that was the straw that broke my entire back, and it pushed me to start to ask my mother, okay, what is this in Tyap? She tells me from English to Tyap. I began to the translation work, and from then till today, I'm still doing
Yeah.
it.
Oh my gosh.
Yes,
So that
yeah,
was a pivotal moment for you
yeah,
to come back to the language that your mother speaks and your literally your mother tongue. Tell me about the
yeah.
language. Tell me some things about how we form sentences. Is it tonal? Is it gendered? Do we have reduplication? Are there particular greetings for certain people within the language in the community? Or tell me anything that you find interesting about Tiap.
Yeah, so the Tyap language is a Niger Congo language, like most languages like Yoruba, Igbo, down south of South Africa, And Tyap is a subject verb object kind of a language. In other words, I I like food. I would be the subject, and then like would be the verb, and then food would be the object. So the same thing in Tyap. Chat, kayak. I
Mm.
like chat, kayak, food. So it's the same as VO in chat, kayak.
Okay.
So even though in terms of the definite articles, TIAP has a lot of them. That's the determinants. In English, we only have THE, maybe the food, the man, the people. But in TIAP, we have six of them. And so you have to actually know the words and know their definite articles. So like, for example, if I want to say the man, I would say a tiogu, a tiogu.
Chogu.
That's a tiogu. That's a tiogu. It's usually spelled A with a dash under, then Tyok, but the K is actually pronounced G, and then the definite article is WU. So we say a tiogu. But then in English, and in Indo-European languages, you find out that the definite articles usually come first before the nouns. But in Tia, the definite article comes second after the noun.
Okay.
Yeah. And whenever we translate also in Tia, we translate most times from the right to the left instead of from the left to the right. When you're translating the Nigerian pidgin English, you translate from left to right.
Okay.
The people were so happy yesterday. Yeah, the people were so happy yesterday. In the Nigerian pidgin, I'll translate it as thus. The people, they're happy were yesterday, or yesterday the people happy were. And then in Tia, I'll start with the last part. Leo. Leo is yesterday. Leo. Onyedba Kushemagwai. Leo. Yesterday. Onyedba. The people who had share. I don't know how to translate in English, but share means to be. Then Mang Agwai is with
Okay.
joy or with happiness. So
Okay.
if I'm to do it literally, I would say yesterday the people were with happiness. And something about Tiab also, the numbering, we have three forms of numbering from one to five. Just like we have the definite articles, two of the definite articles are used mainly for singular words. Two can be used for singulars and plurals, and then two only for plurals, like the word wu, wu and ka. Wu and ka are used for singular words only. For example, akonka, that's the tree, and then for wu, like a that's the
Okay.
woman. Yeah, then for plurals, we have who and ji. So who can be used for singulars and for plurals. For singulars, let's say kyang hu, kyang, Kyang, then who, hu, that's singular. But
Okay.
when you say lelan who is the pots, pots, the singular for pot is alan ka, but plural is lelan who. So you see the who is serving for both singulars and plurals.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the second word is G.
Hmm.
This G is very unique because the words that fall under G, they are usually tonal, high tone, low tone. So if you say Zon G is the goat.
Hmm.
Zon G is Zon, then G, the goat. But if you say Zon G is the goats, the plural form.
So
Yeah,
the tone indicates whether it's
yes.
single or plural.
Yes, for the
Okay.
G group. And then we have the ba and then the na. For example, mana, the children. Then aneba, the people. Mana, aneba. Although we have some kind of off situations whereby the who, which is used only for singulars, can be used for plurals also. For example, Akpadu is the Hausa Akpadu. So I don't know why who is used for plural in the case of Akpadu. I don't know, but it's just a unique situation. And then the languages we usually use the word G. For example, Shongji, the English. Baji, the Hausa, Tiabji, the Tiab, Joji, the Ju, and many other languages fall under the G. So less studies have been done on this very aspect of Tiab, and as I said earlier on, also the numbering. If I'm to count in Tiab, 1 to 5, there are three ways of counting: Nyum, Fern, Tad, Nai, Fon. But that's for the whole group. So if you have words that have the who definite article like kyang who, I want to say one thing, then you say kyang nyum, kyang nyum.
Okay.
Yes, kyang nyum. Then we also have the second counting system, a fern, a nyum, a fern, a tat, a nai, a fon. You just put the in place of the former. So this one is used for four of the definite articles, both the words that fall under the ka, the na, the ba, and then the last one is so yes. So if I want to say 1 tree, 1 tree would be a kon, a nyung, a kon,
On-
a nyung.
Okay.
But then Tiap usually has some words that you can't translate them. But if I'm to make it purely Tiapic, it will be Okon Anyunka, the one tree, the one tree. Okon Anyunka is just like French that you use le and la when you don't need it.
Mm,
Like you translate it, la maison. And then we also have the last one, which is the Jung. Soyang, Tsat, Nyai, Swan, Jung, Soyang, Tsat, Nyai, Swan. This one is used for the G definite article group. Let's say Zon G. If you want to say one goat, you say Zon Jung, Zon Jung. Two goats, Zon Soyang, Zon Soyang, and then you continue like that. But this counting is just for 1 to 5, but from 6 upwards, they are similar for all the definite article groups. Mm,
okay.
yeah,
Let me, first of all, that was
yeah,
amazing. Okay. I'm trying to keep
yeah,
up, take notes of everything that you're saying, and
yeah,
this is so cool. Um,
yeah,
so okay, let's go back to the one within the G with the
yeah,
G article.
group,
Zone
yeah,
G is that's like goats is zone, right?
yeah, yeah, it's
So
on,
if you have two goats,
yeah,
where does the number go? Does the number go after the G or between the
yeah,
zone and the G? Okay, so it goes after the G. Give me
yeah. If
the
it is
what's the
yeah,
number
sorry,
for two again?
two swam
Swan.
for the G group, swam. So if it is two goats, you say John swam. That's the O is rising tone, signifying that it's more than one. But singular is low tone, Zon Jun,
Don't,
Zon
June.
Jun. And then Zon Seang, Zon Tat, Zon Yai, Zon Suan, Zonata, six goats, like that,
This is
infinity.
so cool. This is so
Yes,
cool. I have a long way to go.
yeah,
I want to understand as you are creating a dictionary and you're creating resources,
yeah.
um, what was that process like taking this information and being able to share it in a standardized way for learners and speakers?
Yeah, actually, when I started the dictionary project, I didn't have it in mind that I was going to create a dictionary.
Mm,
I was just wanting to learn my language. So it was later my mother was asking if I want to actually make a dictionary out of it. So that was when the thought of a dictionary just came to my mind. But all I wanted to do was just to know how to speak my language, because when I go to school, we have students, they have their language. Actually, they answer their native names in school. Me, I only answer my foreign names. I didn't answer Kambai in school. I answered Levi or Levi Timothy in school. Subsequently, I started to, press for my own language name to be used. During that process of gathering the words for the dictionary, sometimes I had to travel to the village to meet my cousin who would take me around the older people. And then I begin to ask them, but how do you call this in Tyap? And around that period, the people who actually knew the language, most of them were already dead, because most of the people born after 1920, 1930, you can't really assure that they actually know the language so well. So they actually gave me what they knew. But later on, subsequently, I was able to gather a lot of words, but still I wasn't satisfied, because we had two words, the word and and the word but I didn't know what we call those words in Tiab. Anybody I ask, how do you say and in Tiab? You just use the Hausa word to replace the native word. So I wasn't satisfied with that. So I began to search online. So I found a phone number, and it belonged to the president of the Atiap Community Development Association. And so I called the man, and the man responded, and I asked him, but how do you say and but in Tiap? But he too, he couldn't give me the answer, but he said he knows someone who can be able to give me the answers. So he then gave me the phone number of this man. And when I called the number, he answered me. And instead of giving me the answers directly, he said I should come over to his place in Kaduna. Then I took them to him in Kaduna. So he went through them, and he was like, good, that he was the president of the translation, the Bible translation. He then said, okay, there's a white man that is there in Mawukili, the home area, that I should go and meet him. That's Dr. Follingstad, the man who started the project on TIA. So he was actually one of the first people that encouraged me in the process. So if I should mention his name, his name is General Lekwot. Call him Zamani Lekwot. He's actually one of the most persecuted people in our area by the government. So I actually went down home and then met Dr. Follinstat, and he went through my work, and then he gave me some, insights about linguistics, because I'm not a linguist. The Follinstat was telling me, okay, these particular letters with BW, these are strong or these are weak sounds, kind of, is it Lenis, they call it Lenis sounds, and then the ones that are kind of pure, they are the 40s sounds. So he gave me some of those insights. So whenever I have a break holiday, I go to Phantom State. Then from there, I go to Maukili to the language port. So most times when I go, I'm not able to do anything much. But then in the process, I was able to update myself with the orthography of the Tiap language, what they use currently at that very period. And if there were some publications, I collect them like calendars, and then some new words I see there, I add them to my own dictionary. And there was also another professor, he started a dictionary project, but that's mine makes it the third one.
How are we indicating, if people don't know the word, how are we indicating more than one thing? Or how are we indicating an exception to something? Like, I have four apples, but I need one more.
Mm.
Or I have four apples and I need one more. So how, when we're speaking the language casually, how are we indicating that if we don't know the word or if we didn't know what the word was?
Yeah, that's where the Hausa language comes in. The people decide to fill in the words with the Hausa words.
Okay.
Just intentionally, they just choose to do away with the native words because I do query my mother for speaking the language the way she does. She usually speaks it with a lot of Hausa words. So I'll be like, why won't you use the native word? You know the native word and you know it exists, but you still choose not to use the native word. Well, that's I discovered that actually it was like a trend during their own time
Hmm.
to try to speak with the Hausa language was to, it's like a modern thing kind of. So they didn't know the danger of what they were doing.
Mm.
To them, Hausa was a foreign language or a kind of a language that you speak to belong to the larger society. And and that was how they continued. And there's a way that the language Tyap is spoken that actually makes me angry. For example, someone will use a whole sentence would be Hausa, but they use the native tone of Tyap to pronounce them. For
Whoa.
example, yeah, for example, if I want to say, how is the family? Like during your relations with someone, usually say common thing, oh, Kiamba Hulini, that's in Tyap, in proper Tyap. But then what you get to hear is Yayaleji, Yayaleji.
Mm.
Let me say the Tyap version again, Kiamba Hulini, then Yayaleji. You see that it's like two different languages entirely.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the rottenness that has entered into Tiap. So the only word in that yayalogy is the word G, because G is usually used for words that are foreign, um, yeah,
I
foreign
remember
words.
you
So
said that.
yeah, so for the word Iyali is a Hausa word
Hmm.
to mean family.
Hmm.
So if you import Iyali to Tiap, it will be Iyali G, the family. Then the word Iya is how in Hausa.
Hmm.
And the word how in Hausa is usually at the very beginning of the sentence, just like English. But in Tiap, the word for how is put at the end. The word Nini is used for how in Tiap, but not many people actually know it. That is actually Nini or Ni in short. So it's just the same thing with Hausa, though. Hausa is Yaya, but it's cut into half to be Ya. So sometimes you hear Yaya Yaliji, or sometimes it's Ya Yaliji. So the same thing in Tiap is Kiamba Hulini or Kiamba Kulinini.
Nini. So the
Uh,
Nini goes
yeah,
after the who
yes, at the very end
at the
before the
very
question
end.
mark.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And funny enough, I discovered that the word for Nini, the word Nini is the same word that the Jukuns use in faraway Taraba State in Nigeria.
Hmm.
So the same word they use for how in their language, and we have some kind of commonalities. So it's still part of the research work that I do to discover what are the words that we don't have that these languages have that we can also import, instead of going far away
Yeah,
to the Chadic languages.
right.
Yeah,
Wow. Wow.
yeah,
This is so fascinating for me. This
mm,
is, I
yeah,
don't say that to trivialize your work because this is a lot of
yeah,
work that you're doing and I'm
yeah.
so happy that you're doing it. When we spoke earlier, one thing that you said that really like knocked me over the head, completely struck me,
Mm,
was about seeing minoritized languages of Europe
mm,
having
yeah,
Wikipedia pages and having so
yeah,
many resources on the internet. And you
mm,
wanted that for your language. You wanted that
yeah,
for your community. Talk to
mm.
me about getting that process started and what it has grown into.
Yeah, so I'm happy to speak about that. In the year 2020, there was a coronavirus outbreak. So during that period, that was also a period when we began to have a lot of attacks, terrorist attacks around our area. And also, we had a issue with the government. So the government tries to paint us black. So I didn't like it. So I decided, no, I have to contribute to Wikipedia articles written about my own people. So I go around Wikipedia. I didn't know much about Wikipedia, though I started editing in 2018 very well. I started 2016, but I didn't even know what it was, what I was
Mm,
doing. But I got very serious in 2020 during that incident because I wanted to put facts in online, not just what they were saying about us. So when I started that period, I now discovered that there will be a general meeting of the Wikimedia Foundation. So I decided to join that very meeting. And during that meeting, I was paying attention to all the conversations, and they were talking about how to promote languages, how to promote the underrepresented groups. And then someone made a presentation on languages, and I heard Latin. And I was wondering, Latin, isn't that a dead language or something? At least it's only used in the Catholic Church, and outside of even in Vatican City, they don't speak Latin, it's Italian they speak. So, so how will somebody be talking about Latin Wikipedia? So I now made a research and I saw that Church Slavonic, Anglo-Saxon, the Gothic language, all these dead languages, that no more they are no more spoken. They all have Wikipedia. And then I checked how many Wikipedias we had in Nigeria. Only Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba. And Nigeria has over 500 languages. So I was wondering, is it that these languages are more superior to my own language or something? Because the last time I checked, I was not inferior to anybody. So why would why would my own language not have a project? And little languages in Europe and even dead languages are having Wikipedias. So I was like, okay, let me make a research. Let me ask the person who made this presentation, how do I do this? How do I do that? And by name, he's Amir Aharoni, and he has actually helped me through the process, throughout this process until today. He's still a very a helpful person to my community, So that was how the project started. And then I began to, because it is a law that if you are to start a project, you must have a community for the sake of sustainability. And I'm not a kind of person that has so much friends and communicates so much with people. But then I created a Facebook group, and that Facebook group, I operate it anonymously, so people don't know who is behind it. And then I post things that have to do with keeping the language alive, put fire in their heart to revive the language. I use that very platform to invite people in the WhatsApp section of the, Tialing group. So some people showed interest. Yeah, it's good for us to start something like this. It's usually common whenever you bring something that is, kind of good. You see that people will, yeah, 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 let's do it, let's do it, let's do it. But when they come in, they all withdraw one, 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 one. Before you know, you are left alone. So but then I happen to have about close to six people
hmm
who actually showed quite much interest, and amongst them, just three or two other younger people registered on Wikimedia, but the older people, they were struggling with the technology.
mm
So we started the translation process, but then we are translating a language that has not been well documented, no materials, no sufficient materials, and of course, we are using computer, and computer has modern words which we must create or we must look for translations for. And we have a Tyap language board that is made up of elderly people who really were not so computer savvy. And in that very process, they actually do not have that kind of mentality as we, the younger ones, have. To them, let's take things slowly.
Mm,
Let's not go too fast. That's the language you keep on getting. And whenever I look at these people, I'll just be like, should I cry or something? Because these
mm,
people don't really know that time is going. Just about 10 years away from that period. My grandfather, about 20 years, my people like my grandfather were still alive, but today they are no more. And I look at these old people, and I'm wondering, you don't know when you are going, and you know the language, and people like us are going to be left. So you say we should go slowly until you are dead, and whatever you know, you are gone with it.
right,
So who are you cheating? You are cheating us.
right.
So I refuse to go slowly. Because of this, I've been having issues with them there, but then we're able to come to understand ourselves subsequently, and I wrote out a tentative list of modern words that we should use for translation.
Yeah, that's what I
We
was
have
gonna.
not gotten any response.
I wrote that
Mm,
down as you were talking, creating modern
yeah,
words, and I that's something that always fascinates me when you have to do this
yeah,
kind of documentation. And
yeah.
what kind of things do you have to consider when you are proposing coming up with a technology word or a modern word that hasn't previously been used?
I created a different group with the two other younger people. I wrote down all these words, and then we go through the words one after the other. Okay,
Okay.
for this very English word, how do we translate this? Because if we are to do that with the older people, we're not going to make any moves. The younger people had fire in their hearts, so
Hmm.
they are able to give me a response quickly. And when they make a suggestion, I'll be like, okay, should we go with this very word? Okay, we all agree that we go with this very word. But then there are some other words that the other two people may find difficult. For example, how do you translate like circumference? What I do actually is to go to English and see how does English get their words from, because most English words, the technical terms, they're from Latin and from Greek, and those component words that they join together, they all have individual meanings in these languages. And so I make research to know what does second mean in Latin or in Greek, and then I get the sense and then try to look for something close in Tyap to add or to translate. And sometimes I also use Google Translate to translate to Igbo first, or to Hausa, or to Yoruba, or even to German, because German seems to be kind of more simpler in terms of word structure than English. When I translate to any of these languages, then I get the sense from and every one of them. Then that will give me an idea about how it should be in Tiap. And another advantage is that since Tiap is related to Igbo and to Yoruba, yeah, there are some certain words that will have a similar sense. We can have something a word translated to something similar to any of these words, like the word for history, for example. When someone asked the question, what do you call history in Tiab? Someone said history is just a gist. Someone says a story. Yeah, that's the word nhang. Nhang is the word for story. So someone was asking, what does history mean? So the person was expecting that the word for history in Tia would be different from the word for story. I was like, no. In Yoruba, the word for story is itan, itan, and then the same word is used for history. So even discussion, they are all the same thing. So and Nhang and Itan seem to be cognate words. So why don't we translate history as Nhang and then story also as Nhang? And then if we are to make it very specific, then we add something like an adverb to it, like bang bang. Bang bang is long ago. So Nhang bang bang, that would be story from long ago. So that
I
would mean
love
history.
that. Oh my gosh. I
Yes.
love
So
that. So you're
yeah.
looking at, are you looking at the other languages of Ni like Nigeria,
Yeah.
um, and are you also looking at other Niger Congo languages as well to see if there's any cognates or any similarities? Does that affect your
Mm.
decision also?
Yeah, well, for this very translation work, I just limited my translations to Yoruba and Igbo,
Okay.
because they are the nearest related languages to Tyap. Even though I've made researches to as far as Zulu and Swahili, and
Hmm.
I found a lot of cognate words, a lot with these languages, like the word for an animal in Swahili, I think it's nyama also, and the word for animal in Tyap is nyam without the a at the end. Yeah,
Mm.
so we have a lot of similar words
Okay.
with Zulu and Swahili, but then since I don't understand those languages quite well, so I just limit it to the ones around Nigeria.
That makes sense. I know it's a
Yeah,
lot of
thanks.
work for you.
Honestly, it's hectic.
I
It's
know that
hectic.
you're doing such a great job, and I just want to say thank
Yeah,
you for giving us a bit of a glimpse inside of this monumental and important work
mm,
that you're doing for Etiap and for
yeah,
for Nigeria, for Nigerian
yeah.
languages, and
Thank you.
keeping your language and your history alive. I want to talk to you a bit about the culture. Are there specific
Yeah,
traditions or cultural practices that you cherish or that are
yeah,
cherished and beloved by the community?
yeah, yeah. In terms of culture, I think I am more of a person that does things with the language than the ethnicity. So, but then from what I've studied about the Atia culture, I've come to actually appreciate the certain aspects, like we have kind of a more simplified version that has to do with inheritance, for example.
Mm,
Um, like in other cultures, you find out that there is usually a struggle whenever a parent dies, like a father dies, and then you have to transfer the wealth to the next person in line. But we don't have that kind of an issue in the Etiap culture, even though most of what we have as culture, they are just remnants of what actually existed a long time ago,
mm,
because slavery or slave rates have actually dealt with our culture so deeply that our people, some of our people, instead of living on the plains, they have to move to the mountains to live in the mountains to avoid. And during the periods whereby they lived in the mountains, some of the things they used to practice, they no more practice them. And new generations just keep on being born, and what was being practiced, no more being practiced. But then the colonialists were and European travelers were able to document some aspect of the culture. Charles Meek in 1925 and 1931 was able to document about the culture of the Atia people. And then also Captain Trimian was able to document in 1909. So we have these documents mainly to back up with what the elders that we have can remember about our culture. So, like, for example, in the Edo culture, when a father dies, the first son actually is like the person who inherits the family wealth. And then maybe the other ones can also have, especially if a will is written. But in the Atiap culture, it's the last born that actually owns the house. So when you have a family existing, of course, the father would apportion lands for each of his sons to cultivate. And then the first son, when he gets married, he moves out of the house and goes to his own portion. That's the end. And and then when the father finally dies, is the last born that remains in the home with his own family.
Mm,
So that's the way. So usually we don't have issue with inheritance. And then another aspect is the marriage. Tiap have about three ways of marriage. The
mm,
very first way of marriage is, or two very major ones. The primary is having two branches. The first one is when a baby gets born, a baby girl gets born, and someone hears, oh, my friend in so village has gotten a baby girl. Okay, he would like take his bicycle or take whatever he has and go to that village. Or I would want to claim that baby for my son when they grow up.
mm,
And then he ties maybe a twine on the baby's wrist, or maybe put a ring or something, or maybe wear a necklace on the baby's neck to signify that this one is for my son, is claimed already. And
mm-hmm,
then you have another one whereby maybe a family friend visits a particular house, and then there are baby girls in the house, and he sees that this one has not been claimed yet. Oh no, I'll claim this one for my son. When he goes back, he brings, let's say, five chickens or so, or brings some things traditionally required, and then this one is for my son. And then the boy, when he grows to a particular age, he begins to go to to be in-laws and begin to farm for them to show that he will be able to take care of their daughter when finally he's of age. And also when the girl attains the age of puberty, let's say from 14 or thereabout, and the boy is about 19 or thereabout, then marriage can occur between the two. And then we also have like a secondary version of the marriage, whereby this one is not having to do with people who are not married yet. These ones, they have already been married, and maybe the husband of this one doesn't treat her well, and the woman can make an arrangement with her father to get her another suitor from outside. So at the end of the day, that very suitor will come with his friends in a market day and then come and kidnap her in the in the market, and then take her to his own house. So that's a kind of a kidnap marriage. But then that was not the end.
okay.
When that happens, actually, that's what happened to my grandmother,
Oh my
my
gosh.
paternal grand. Yeah, she was married with a baby girl somewhere else, and then my grandfather, whose wife just died, but she died and left a baby boy, very small then. So they arranged, and then they went to kidnap her and brought her to his own house. But then after that, they usually pay back the bride price back to the husband.
Mm,
And in a situation whereby maybe she was pregnant when she was kidnapped, and the husband knew about it, then he will claim that baby that is going to be born.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, so there's traditional rights, and I actually discovered that this very kind of marriage is not really particular to us here in Africa, in our own region. It's also practiced in Kazakhstan, in Central Asia. Among the Kazakhs, you also have something similar. So it's a
So
kind of a, yeah,
just so I'm clear, we're
yeah,
kidnapping the woman to get her away from her terrible husband.
yeah,
And then we're paying back the terrible husband so that he'll leave her alone and let her go
yeah,
find someone else to marry.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, and there are situations whereby maybe the man is a very lazy man. He doesn't farm. He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't, she does most of the things that a man should be doing. And
Mm-hmm.
so at the end of the day, our people also have a culture, they call it the swali. Swali means when you are satisfied, when you are eating and this food, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, yeah,
It's,
yeah, yeah.
the Ali is house or home. So Swali is you are fed up. Yeah, you are fed up with the house. So there are instances whereby the woman can leave the husband, pack the children, and go to her own family house and live with the children. And then when the husband he is tired of not seeing his wife. He comes back to our place, and then before he leaves, with her, he has to pay some things to her father. Then, then,
I love
then he
this.
takes her back with.
I love this.
Yeah, so the culture was kind of more interesting back
Mm,
then
hmm.
than the way it is now, because now it is now done, not a traditional way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you've noticed in a Tyap community
Mm,
that
mm,
is sets this specific
yeah.
to that culture, things that maybe tie it or connect it to the language so closely,
Mm,
or things
mm.
that make it very obviously not Hausa? Are there any things like that?
Yeah, like in the Tyap community, we have this grouping from 1911, when Westermann began to classify languages of Africa. He classified the people who spoke related language variants that seem to understand themselves. The languages are lexically similar. So there's this group he called, or modern today we call the Atiap ethno-linguistic cluster. So this Atiap linguistic cluster consists of about 7 to 8 different variants. Even though natively these people would say they are not Atiap. The Fantuan, for example, will say they are Fantuan. The Gorok will say they are Gorok, and they speak Gorok language, not Gorok dialect of Tia.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, yeah. So everybody claims that their own dialect or their own variant is a language and not a variant of another language, even though
Mhm.
we all understand ourselves, we answer the same names.
Mhm.
Yeah, so if I'm going to call the word Atia presently, I'll just refer to just one of the dialects, which is the one spoken in Atia chiefdom. So to answer your question, this variant of the Atia people who actually have the word Atia as their own identity, they have about 4 clans. So we have the Aminyam, and then we have the Ashokwa, and then we have the Oku. The Ogbad and the Armenian, they have this story that they migrated or they came from the Jos Plateau through different, although they may not say, uh, specifically they are from Jos Plateau, but some will say they come from Kano, some will say they come from around Kagi or from, but if you look at the pattern of migrations, most of the people were coming from the Jos Plateau, maybe as a result of slave raiding, and then they escape through Kano, and then they come down to where they are. So each of these 4 groups, they all have totems, or they have these animals that they respect so much. Um, there was something that happened in their history that made them to respect these animals and these plants. For example, the Oku, they respect they don't respect the animals, but they respect these plants, this she tree. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's used to make
Like
shea
the
butter.
shea butter. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, shea butter, yeah,
Hmm.
they share tree. So they usually use the leaves for their traditional rites, and women are not permitted to cook with the firewood, or to
Of
make
the
firewood with
tree.
the wood of the tree.
Hmm.
So it's forbidden.
Right.
And that's the plant they keep very sacred. And then the Armenian, they keep the cow very sacred. They don't eat the cow.
Okay.
And then you have the Agbad. The Agbad have the crocodile as their own totem.
Okay.
Uh, they believe that when they were being pursued by their enemies, and they reached the river Kaduna, they were about to cross, and then this crocodile came and laid down for them to cross and form the bridge. So I don't know how big that crocodile was. It sounds like a Kokambu story. But
The crocodiles were bigger back then.
well, maybe. So maybe they were telling those stories to the children. Maybe the children don't believe whatever they say, but
That's funny.
Uh,
In your clan, like what is
yeah,
the animal or the plant that is revered?
yeah. For the Ashoka clan, it's the pangolin. The pangolin,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
It's called a tatong in Tyap.
A tatung.
Tatong.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so the Tatong, the story goes as thus that Shokwa was in his house. He was alone. Maybe his wife went somewhere, and this pangolin just came. He was making fire, and the pangolin just looked at him. Oh, poor man. Where is your family? Where are the rest of the people? He was like, no, I'm all alone. I have nobody. So he said, okay. You have nobody. You have a very large family, and you have people that you call your own people too. And since that very period, according to the story, I don't know how, true, because Pangolin doesn't talk.
And crocodiles
So
aren't that big, so
yeah, they are not so
we're
big.
going
So
with it. We're going with it. It's talking
so
pangolin,
it's
giant crocodile.
it's just the Kakambu story we just accepted. So since that very period, when Shokwa began to have his family, he instructed his family never to kill an Atatong, to kill a pangolin.
Mhm.
So if a family member of the Shokwa clan sees the pangolin's dead body, they have to carry it and buried as an old person is being buried. And
Okay.
the way old people are buried is not the same way young people are buried, because you have to wait till during the Anak festival or the Anak ceremony. The Anak ceremony is when you have to do the mourning of all the great old people that have died, and then you mention all their good deeds, and then you mention if they were warriors, because our people used to practice head hunting back
Mm.
then.
Mhm.
So when they hunt the head, whoever they kill, they carry the heads back to their own houses. So those serve like the trophy for each man. So if you have a lot of skulls, you were a very great man.
Right, right.
Yes, so at the end of the day, people mourn their death, and something specific about this. The Oshokwa clan and the Oku clan, they actually have a different version of the Anak festival. The Oshokwa have this one they call Oswa.
So-
Oswa is a kind of an act that is hidden, not in the open.
Okay.
So it's it's a kind of a funny one, because when I studied about this one, I was wondering if it actually happened, but it actually happened from the testimony. So this is the way it happened, that during the Aswa festival, everyone will go naked,
Uh-huh.
both the men and the women.
Which is why
Uh,
it's
it,
private, probably.
Yeah, although, and then they begin to dance in like circles or so.
Okay.
And what happens is that the young girls, they try to manipulate the men to see who have an erection, and anyone who has who has an erection dies that day.
What?
Yes.
How
So
are
so
they?
they usually have because it usually involves the Oku clan, which is in charge of the religion, the
Uh-huh.
Aboy cult. Although they say it's a cult, but then the people see it as their religion.
Okay.
They were the rainmakers. So
Oh,
whenever
right, right, right. Yeah.
Yes, so whenever the event happens like that, the Oku usually brings one of their masquerade. They call it the Alum. So the Olim is the executioner, and
Mhm.
then the people who dance, they are the Ashokwa people. So who whoever amongst the men has an erection, he dies that day. He is killed by the Olim. So the reason is because the Oswa is meant to celebrate or to celebrate the dead people. And so you are not supposed to be thinking of anything other than giving.
Wow. Yeah.
Yes. So if you are not thinking about dead people, then you are thinking about something
Right.
else. So you are making it impure.
Right,
The
right.
whole
I
festival in
understand.
Pure. So
I
yeah,
understand.
so that's the reason for it. And one more thing is that the Atia people, unlike quite a number of people in Nigeria, they seem to have only one God,
Mm-hmm.
not many gods. The Atia people only worship the God of the rain,
Mm-hmm.
who they call the Ogwaza. That's like king of rain. So, but then they don't see Ogwaza. So the people that they see, they are the Obwe, who the Oku clan are in charge of.
Mm-hmm.
So the Obwe are not usually seen, except the males that have been initiated into the Obwe cult.
Okay.
Yeah, from age 7, the males get circumcised, and then when they begin to, I think after the circumcision or thereabouts, then they begin to get initiated into different areas, have different ages of the initiation. And the initiation is this: the boys are taken to the shrine of the boy, and
Mm-hmm.
then they are kept in there for close to about 5 days. They all sit on the floor. Nobody talks. Nobody eats. They sit there, no sound at all for all these days.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone who, who talks is punished. And
Okay.
there are instances where you have stubborn children, and those stubborn children are usually executed by their way. Yeah, they are executed also. And the reason for it is that the boys also are trained in such a way that they should be able to keep secret in the community. And
Mm.
whenever they are released from the Oboy cult, from the Oboy shrine, they are released to their homes. And then
Mm-hmm.
their mothers, they usually smear them with ashes so that they'll say the boy have swallowed them and vomited them out. So the
Okay.
women are deceived to think that the boy actually used to vomit and swallow children. And any child who opens his mouth to tell the mother this is how the boy does their thing, somehow the boy will find out, and when they find out, they'll execute that child. So it's mainly done to control the information that spreads around.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons is also not for enemies to understand what is happening. Maybe they
Mm-hmm.
are having a war, and they are making plans, and then you don't have boys that can keep their mouth shut. So they just leave the boys that can be able to keep their secrets, so that when there are war issues, the boys don't go about telling their mothers. And if it comes to their mothers, well, the enemy may hear. eh,
Are you,
so,
I just want to make sure, are you allowed to talk
yeah.
about this publicly?
Oh, no, this is something old,
Okay.
since the 1950s,
Okay.
1940s, 1950s.
Okay.
Their people were heavily pagan then.
Okay.
Uh, but then since that period, the boy seems not to even exist now.
Okay.
So most
I
people are now Christians. So
not trying to get you in trouble. I'm like,
yeah, no,
maybe
no,
we should keep this a secret.
it's no more
Um,
a secret.
but this is part of history and it is what it
Yes.
is.
Yeah.
You have given me so much knowledge, such a
Yeah,
wealth of understanding of your community, understanding of Tyap language and a Tyap
yeah,
culture.
yeah,
Thank you so much for this,
yeah,
Kambai. This is
yeah.
like so much more than I expected that we were going to
Wow.
talk about. And this is, I feel like we've just only scratched the surface, but I'm so
Yeah,
happy that we've had this opportunity to chat. I would love if you could let our listeners know where we can find you on the internet and how we can support
mhm.
this journey and how we can support your linguistic endeavors.
Yeah. So thank you very much to our listeners. You can actually reach me on social media. I have different names which I use on social media, like on Facebook and on Instagram, and maybe on YouTube. I go by Kambai or call AKA, and on TikTok also. I use Kamilevsky, but if you browse on Facebook, if you're able to see me on Facebook, you'll see my other links. And also, I have a link tree address, and my name is TL Kambai at TL Kambai on Linktree. So if you happen to be on Linktree, you can be able to get me there, and then you see all my other social media handles. And also, in case you wish to support, I'll be very happy to have someone who will be able to establish a printing press for us. I'll be very happy because once we're able to have printed materials for languages in our region, well, I think that will go a long way in solving a very big challenge, because we have a lot of people that have written about language, but then they have not been able to publish these things. And I know someone who has written stories, but he's late now. And I wonder what happens to all those things he has written. He's in the village there. So if he happens not to have children that can keep things like this, then those
Mm.
things are just going to waste. And with a printing press, one can be able to do a lot for little languages like ours. And this is just basically something that I'll be very grateful to have.
Well,
Yes.
I will add links to all of your social platforms
Yeah.
in the show notes for this episode so
Yeah.
that people can reach out and get in touch with you right away.
Yeah.
And we're gonna send out the word that you need a printing press and you need
Yeah.
help
Thank you.
establishing that printing press. I'm gonna spread the word on that and hopefully someone
Yeah.
will be able to help. Someone will be able to give you a hand with that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'd like to end each episode with the same question, which is I love this question. I'm sorry. It's just I was about to start laughing already, but I love this question because it's so much fun.
Yeah.
Do you have
Yeah.
any jokes, popular sayings, tongue twisters, cool slang words, idioms, words of wisdom, or words of advice and Tyap to share
Mm.
and to teach us?
Let's say an idiom.
Mm-hmm.
There's a word, a
A sh
Asham, Asham.
a
The
sh
first A has a little dash under, so Asham Zwei,
a
Asham.
sham
That's
zwei a
Asham Zwei,
sham zwei
Zwei. The Zwei is Zwuai.
a sham zwei
Yeah,
zwei.
Asham Zwei. That's but literally it means a good seasoning. There's this locust beans, this Biglobosa, the Pachyia biglobosa is common around the savannah area. It has pods. The tree has pods, and the seeds are usually soaked and cooked, and then they are used to make seasoning, local
Mm,
seasoning.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, we call it swai in Tyap, and
Zwei.
the Hausas call it dawa dawa.
Dawa, dawa.
Yes, the the so whenever you hear the word Asham Swai, there's a proverb that says Asham Swai Shat Mamba. Asham Swai Shat Mamba.
Yat
That
mamba.
means a good seasoning, mamba. But in my mother's dialect, it will be Kasham Zwai Shat Mamdak.
Oh, okay.
Kasham Zwai Shat Mamdak.
Mm-hmm.
But in Tiap is Asham Zwai Shat Mamba. Even though the ba is the negation and ba seems to be borrowed. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So whenever you hear the proverb Asham Zwai Shat Mamba or Kasham Zwai Shat Mamdak or Usham Zwai Shat Mamdak, it means a good seasoning usually doesn't last to see the sun. It means that Yes, it means that whatever is good, it doesn't usually last. Good things don't last. And then if a person is referred to as a shamjoy, that means the person is a very good
A
person
good
or a good
person.
seasoning.
Thank you so much for sharing
Yes,
that. You should see my page full
yes.
of notes that I have that I was taking while we were
Okay.
talking because I learned
No
so much, and
problems.
I'm so, so excited to have had
No
this
problems.
conversation with you. Before I let you go,
Yeah.
I would love to ask you just
Yes.
one quick question. If you are
Yes.
in your community, you're among people, and you all speak the same language, but it's time to go home. It's time to leave. In Tiap, don't
Yes.
don't think about this too hard. In Tiap, what is the best way
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
say goodbye?
Zhenjiang.
Zhenjiang,
Uh,
Zhenjiang,
Zhenjiang. Zhen.
Zhenjiang.
Zhen is time. The Zhang is another. Just like I told you, we have three ways of counting. We also have three ways of saying another. Jen is belonging to the G group.
Okay.
So if you want to say another time, you say Jen Jiang instead of Jen Yang or Jen Yang. So Jen Jiang another time. That's the
Zhen.
way we say bye bye. But then before bye bye, I said I was going to give you a Tiap name. I was cooking it and it was ready.
That's my tap name. Yes.
Yes.
Tell me.
So are you ready?
I am ready.
Yeah, so the name is Zanang.
Zenang.
Zanang. Zanang
Zenang.
means a gift. Yes.
That is a
So
gift to
yes,
me.
it's a gift. Yes. That's the meaning of Zanang. And we have quite a number of people bearing the name Zanang. Um, and you will hear me saying it Zanang instead of Zanang because in Tiap we seem not to have the Z sound. But then there are some sub-dialects, they have the Z rather than the Z. So some pronounce as Zanang and some pronounce as Zanang.
Zenang.
Yeah,
How do I spell
yes.
it?
Just Z-A, then with a little dash under, then N-A-N-G.
Zenang.
Yes,
My new
Zanang.
name. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
This is a gift. Thank you.
Yes, yes, you're
Um,
welcome.
I am so honored. I'm so honored
Mm,
to receive a Tiaf name from you.
yeah, you're
And
welcome.
I'm so proud of it. And I'm
Mm,
I'm so proud of this name. Um,
you're welcome.
I'm excited.
Mm.
Well, I
Yeah,
thank you so
it's
much.
quite,
Thank you so
yeah,
much
you're welcome.
again,
You're welcome.
Kambai, for this conversation, and I will be talking to
Yeah,
you soon.
bye bye.
New episodes of Speaking Tongues are available every Monday, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and to like and share episodes with other language lovers like yourselves.